Happy Saturdays, back at you guys with another video. And we are 2 days away from the NFL draft, so it is only right we had to get at you guys with a mock draft, our final mock draft. Now, I made a ton of mock drafts in the last couple of months, but this is the final edition of my mock draft that I wanted to get out to you guys. Now, this NFL draft is a little weird. After the first pick, I honestly don't know what's going to happen. Usually NFL drafts, a lot of them you can predict the first 3, 4, 5 picks. I'm not even confident my pick's going to be right after pick 1. But without further ado, let's get into it. There's some picks here I feel very strongly about certain players. And there's other picks where I think the team just meets that need and that player is the best player available at that position on that board. So a lot of picks, I'm going to have a little more to say. A lot of picks, a little less to say. Anyway, enough with the yapping. Let's get right into it. At number 1, without a doubt, Tennessee selects Cam Ward. Now, this makes sense for the Tennessee Titans. They really left themselves in a bind. Not really a bind if they love Cam Ward. I personally don't love him, but they did not do anything to address their quarterback group in the offseason. Again, I think Will Levis in a year and a half, what he showed, again, I don't think they could go into next year with him as their starter. And when you're talking about ceiling for this NFL draft, even though it's a weak draft at the QB position, Cam Ward has the highest ceiling. When you talk about extending plays, he separates himself there from the other possible first-round QBs. When you talk about arm talent, he separates himself there. Now, the only issue I do have with Cam Ward, again, the way he was extending plays, his nonchalant type of capabilities, and I feel like he was just playing a slow game in college. Is it going to translate to the NFL right away in Tennessee? No. I expect it to be something like Caleb Williams, where his first year is rough. He may hold on to the ball a little too long, take some sacks. But again, Tennessee left themselves in a bind where they need a QB, and they really told the world that they are selected Cam Ward number 1. So that's what we got there. At number 2, we have Travis Hunter to the Browns. Now, again, if I was the Browns here, I would take Abdul Carter. But again, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, you really can't go wrong. I think with Myles Garrett being signed long-term here, they go with Travis Hunter instead of taking another edge rusher, which, again, I don't mind. They have a need for cornerback. They have a need for wide receiver. This guy could definitely do both. Now, I think Travis Hunter is going to play in packages on offense, and he's going to play throughout the game at cornerback. Again, there's no way he goes 100% of plays in the NFL. It's just not happening. It's just not possible. But I think the best way to split his time, again, you can't really sub in at corner here and there. It doesn't really work like that. So I think he's going to play full-time at corner for the Browns. And then again, he's going to play at spurts in offense, at receiver. Going to be very interesting to see with this pick how things are managed, because I have a feeling when Browns lose in the post game, a lot of questions are going to be, why didn't you play Travis Hunter here? Why didn't you play Travis Hunter here? Why did you give him a break? That's going to cause a lot of chaos, in my opinion. But again, Travis Hunter is so good. He may relieve those questions as well. Travis Hunter at number 2 for the Browns, a talent we haven't seen before. At number 3, this was a tough pick because I feel like Shedeur Sanders has been linked to the Giants. And the moves the Giants made at the QB position makes me think they're not going to go QB. But then again, they signed 2 veteran QBs. We've seen things in the NFL where they could draft a quarterback to learn behind them. Again, is Russ and Jameis really going to be there for more than 1 year? Probably not, but still, I have them taking the way better player, in my opinion. I have them going with Abdul Carter. Now, the Giants have a very underrated defense. I think you add Abdul Carter to this, it makes them lethal. When you talk about Brian Burns, when you talk about Kayvon Thibodeau, adding an Abdul Carter, who I think is the best player in the draft, gives the Giants a ton of flexibility. We're talking about a hybrid-type player that could play linebacker and play edge, super fast on the line. I think this guy's going to be a game changer and an eventual top 3 defensive player in the NFL. He reminds me exactly of Micah Parsons. I know they both been bred from Penn State, but again, that hybrid linebacker edge combo, Abdul Carter is going to be unreal, in my opinion, the best player in the draft. And I think the Giants get a steal here. I know it's crazy at 3, but I think they got the best player in the draft in Abdul Carter in this mock. At number 4 for the Patriots, we are going with Will Campbell. Again, we've seen Drake May really do a lot, honestly, with a terrible situation. Patriots had probably the worst O-line in the NFL. You have to protect Drake May. They go with Will Campbell here. Will Campbell, one of the best offensive line prospects, and you need to take a tackle if you drafted O-lineman this high. because, again, I think tackles are just a little more important than guards. They're kind of in an island where a guard's in the middle of things. They need to shore up this O-line desperately. Will Campbell at 4, I think, is the right move. At number 5, we got a little bit of a controversial pick. We're going with Ashton Jeanty to the Jaguars. Now, listen, I've been saying it time and time again, a deep running back class. You don't need to draft Ashton Jeanty with this high of a pick. But I do kind of like it for this team in the Jaguars. Now, I think this is really more about getting the most out of Trevor Lawrence and justifying the Trevor Lawrence contract than it is about Ashton Jeanty and getting this pick right. Listen, Ashton Jeanty could be a good running back, and this could still be a reach at the pick. But if Trevor Lawrence takes this leap with Ashton Jeanty added in the offense, I think it would be 100% worth it for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Even if Ashton Jeanty is just a really good running back and not a great running back, I think it would be so worth it for the Jaguars if you get Trevor Lawrence to take that leap and justify this contract. And again, I think Ashton Jeanty is a can't-miss player. Like, he's guaranteed to be a good player. And for a team like Jacksonville that's been bad for a while, I don't think it's bad to take that guaranteed good player. Like I said, I think they're going to try to justify the Trevor Lawrence contract. I'm a huge Trevor Lawrence supporter, but that's besides the point. Ashton Jeanty at number 5. At number 6, we got the Raiders taking Mason Graham. Now, I think when you're in the Raiders case, when you have a lot of needs, again, they kind of been putting themselves in a little bit of a win-now mode with the Geno Smith signing. But again, they're trying to be competitive. I think Mason Graham on that D line with Max Crosby would be absolutely lethal. And again, you get another anchor to that defense. D lineman is a guy that could change your whole entire defense. I like Mason Graham here. At number 7, we got a kind of a fun pick for the Jets. They have been linked to him. Again, I could so easily see the Jets going O-line. I feel like being in New York, watching the Jets, I feel like I've seen them go O-line so many times. But I got them going Tyler Warren, and I think they really need it. I mean, when you look at the pass catchers outside of Garrett Wilson, there's really nothing there. I think a secondary pass catcher in Tyler Warren would be super fun for the Jets. Now, with a defensive coordinator in Aaron Glenn, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I don't love it. Tyler Warren does have a very unique skill set, and I don't know if a defensive coordinator is going to bring the most out of his potential. But again, I think the Jets really do need this pick. I think it's been a while since the Jets had a super productive tight end, and I think it would be a great pick for the Jets in their fit. Like I said, they need another pass catcher. At number 8, we have the Carolina Panthers going Jalen Walker. I really love this pick for the Carolina Panthers. I think the Carolina Panthers have a little more hope than people thought. Again, they're in a weak division, and Bryce Young in the last few games after a rocky start to his career, he showed that he may be a good quarterback in the NFL, and I think getting an anchor on defense is exactly what they need for this team. You talk about Jalen Walker, kind of the same deal as Abdul Carter in the hybrid type of linebacker end, where I think Abdul Carter is going to play more end. I think Jalen Walker is going to play more linebacker. But again, a guy that can kind of do it all. And again, they need cornerstones for the Panthers. Jalen Walker will be that on defense. At number 9, here comes Shedeur Sanders to the Saints. Now, the Saints are a complete mess with cap space, with situation. But again, just like we said with the Panthers, they're in a super weak division, and they can get competitive real quick in that division. I think Shedeur Sanders, again, I don't like Shedeur Sanders. I said it time and time again. I think him as a first-round pick is a reach, but the Saints need a quarterback. I think it would be a decent fit. And again, despite the Saints' cap mess, they do have some weapons. Olave, Kamara. He's not going into, again, the worst offense we've ever seen. Shedeur Sanders at number 9. Again, I think it's really just the fit of the team need there. They're the next team that needs a quarterback. I think the Saints take Shedeur Sanders here. At number 10, we go with Armand Membou to the Chicago Bears. I think the Chicago Bears would be the next team for Jeanty, in my opinion, if he didn't go to the Jaguars. But in our mock, like we just mentioned, we have him going to the Jaguars. So they go Armand Membou. I think they completely finish his O-line with Armand Membou. And I think, again, if you're not going to go Ashton Jeanty, this is the next best option. Protect Caleb Williams. You could argue it's an even better option in a deep running back class. And again, I have a lot of hope for Caleb Williams. Even after a rough year 1, I think Caleb Williams is going to be the truth. And I think protecting him, again, just the way Caleb Williams plays, like, again, it was very hard for him to translate that to the NFL his first year under a bad offensive line. You get a good offensive line under Caleb Williams, you're going to see his escapability and his playmaking go to a whole nother level in the NFL. I really love this pick. At number 11, we go Will Johnson to the 49ers. Now, I was debating Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron. Who do I like here? Both guys I absolutely love. Two completely different style of secondary players. I went with Will Johnson here. I just think he's the better player. I think he's a traditional outside corner. 49ers really need a help in the secondary bad, and I think him as a 6'3", 6'4" corner, I think he's a can't miss guy. Absolutely love him. I think he's one of the best players in the draft. At number 12, we have Tetairoa McMillan. Now, I got a lot to say about Tetairoa McMillan. I think the way he's dropping is absolutely insane. And it just happens to one player every single NFL draft. Again, people just overthink it and they drop massively. I think Tetairoa McMillan is a top 4 player in the draft without a doubt. But he's going to slide all the way to 12. And I think he really is going to slide. I believe what everybody's saying. Like I said, that he is going to slide in this draft. I don't think it should be happening, though. I think Tetairoa McMillan is the best receiver in this draft by far. I think him as a big outside traditional X receiver, I think he's going to be a stud, can't miss guy in the NFL. And everybody's going over to route running. This guy can run routes. But again, you're talking about a guy that's being compared to Mike Evans, a guy that's being compared to T. Higgins. When you're out that size, you're not going to be a complete route technician. You're not going to be one of the best route runners in the league. But this guy can separate. He does have productive yards after the catch as well. And I think in Dallas, alongside CeeDee Lamb, that is going to be an absolutely lethal combination for a while. Not only that, I really think they do complement each other well. A guy in CeeDee Lamb, again, you could argue is the best receiver in the league, can really play inside the slot as well, where Tetairoa McMillan can stay on the outside. I absolutely love it. I think Dallas gets an absolute steal. At number 13, we got Walter Nolan, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss, going to the Dolphins. Dolphins defense was kind of rough last year. Again, I think they could really use a D-line help. I think that's the right pick for them there. At number 14, we go Malaki Starks. He goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts are really just a mess right now. Again, their quarterback situation is rough. They definitely need secondary help. I could have put something in their offense, but I don't think their offense is that bad with their line and their weapons. I think Malaki Starks in the secondary is just the best player available at this pick, and they could use the secondary help. At number 15, we go Falcons, Mike Green out of Marshall, edge rusher. I like this pick for the Falcons as well. You get something to shore up this defense. I think their offense is super talented. It's going to be interesting to see what Michael Penix does for them going into this year. But again, I don't think they need help on offense. I think they could use a game changer on defense, and that's Mike Green. Number 16, Jahdae Barron to the Cardinals. Probably my favorite pick of this whole entire mock draft. I absolutely love Jahdae Barron. He's just so versatile. He's so unique. He's a guy that can play outside corner, inside corner, safety. This was really the only guy that helped slow down Jeremiah Smith the whole entire year when Ohio State played Texas in that playoff game. I think he's a complete stud, so underrated. Again, I think he's just such a unique defensive player. If you're a defensive coordinator, this guy's your dream. You could do so much with him. Jahdae Barron at 16 to the Cardinals. At number 17, we go with Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. Linebacker, goes to the Bengals. Let's just be honest. If the Bengals pick anything on offense, whoever their GM is, just completely fire him. They need defense like nobody has ever seen before. Jihad Campbell, again, a linebacker, a guy that could maybe uplift that defense, be a leader on that defense. They absolutely need it. At number 18, Josh Simmons, Ohio State, to the Seahawks. Again, I could have went receiver here, but they did end up signing Cooper Kupp after the DK Metcalf thing. They have a lot on this offense. Their defense is pretty solid as well. But I think they're going to try to protect Sam Darnold. And since he's really on like a one-year prove-it deal, and they have an out after that year, I think they're going to want him to try to prove it. And I think this offense is going to be really talented once they shore up this offensive line with Josh Simmons. I love the pick. At number 19, we're going Donovan Iskaru to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers could definitely use an edge rusher. They're getting a little old in their pass rushing department. I think this is the right fit. At number 20, we're going with Omarion Hampton to the Broncos. Now, kind of funny, the last lead back Williams out of North Carolina. But I think this is a great move for the Broncos, and I think it's possibly the best spot Omarion Hampton can go to. When you look at Omarion Hampton, he's going to arguably a team with the best offensive line, a young emerging quarterback, and an offense that added Evan Ingram as well, and that was solid last year. I absolutely love this pick for the Broncos as well because, like we said, Omarion Hampton in a different year could easily be a top 10, top 15 pick. But again, he has Ashton Jeffy in front of him. And it wouldn't surprise me if Amari Hampton ended up being a better running back than Ashton Jeffy in the NFL. Again, am I predicting it to happen? No, but this guy is a do-it-all running back, and I think the Broncos get an absolute stud when they arguably have the worst running back group in the NFL. At number 21, again, another team that put themselves in a position where they have to draft a quarterback if they just don't go Aaron Rodgers. We're going Jackson Dart to the Steelers, and I don't hate this pick. I know 90% of people who are watching this are going to hate this pick. I don't. I think he's better than Shedeur Sanders. Again, I think he has a little more escapability than Shedeur Sanders, a little more arm talent, and he played in the SEC, which I truly value. I like Jackson Dart. Again, if they could have got him in the second round, it is what it is. But at 21, I think they stay put and take him. They can't go into the year of Mason Rudolph. At number 22, I'm going to stick with the Michigan Ties, and I have Jim Harbaugh drafting Colston Loveland. Now, I think the Chargers definitely need this. They have Ladd McConkey, who completely emerged. Quentin Johnson really never took that step. They really don't have much pass catchers, like I just mentioned, outside of Ladd McConkey. I think Colston Loveland is the right pick. Again, I don't think he's far off from Tyler Warren. I think they're definitely different tight ends. And for Jim Harbaugh, who loves to use running backs, loves to have a Russian-style offense, Colston Loveland can definitely block in the run game. I like this move. At number 23, one of the biggest steals in the draft, edge rusher James Pierce Jr. He goes to the Packers at 23. I don't know why there's a stain on James Pierce's name. I heard there's character concerns, whatever it may be. But again, he's not as far off from Mason Graham at number 6 than people think. I really love James Pierce. Loved him in college. A complete wrecker on the defense side of the ball. I think a great team in the Packers get a steal with this pick. At number 24, we go with Kenneth Grant, the big D lineman in the middle, defensive tackle. He goes to the Vikings. Another pick I really like. I think the Vikings could use some interior rushing. I think Kenneth Grant is the right pick here. At number 25, after the O-line loss, the Texans take Kelvin Banks Jr. Again, it's just strictly a need. And again, you have a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. You need to protect him. Kelvin Banks Jr. is the right pick. Back-to-back tackles for the Rams. Rams go with Gray Zabel. I like this pick as well. Again, you have an old quarterback in Stafford. You need to protect him. It's a need there. And Rams are a talented team. They don't need much. Get the tackle, shore up that O-line. At number 27, they need secondary help. Their defense took a huge drop from last year, even though, again, they were a complete contender. Trey Amos is the pick for the Ravens. At number 28, another guy that I think is just completely underrated, same as James Pierce Jr. Again, just has a stain on his name. Nick Scordon to the Lions. Lions really don't need anything. They're a great team, but I think Nick Scordon is going to be an absolute game wrecker. I think he's going to be one of the steals of this draft for the first round. I absolutely love him. Him going through a contended team, it could be scary. At number 29, we have a fun pick. I said time and time again, I don't think 3 running backs are going to be taken in the first round, but I pulled the trigger. I think the Commanders needed. They got another receiver for Jaden Daniels, but I think to really take an uplift in that RPO game, I think they need a solid running back. I don't think Brian Robinson should be a lead back. A complimentary back, sure, not a lead back. They go with TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson, the best pass protecting back in this draft. He's definitely a great downhill runner, and he can catch. His catch ability is underrated because he played with Quinshon Judkins, but he definitely could catch. I think this is one of the needs for Washington, and I think they get exactly what they need to uplift this RPO game. At number 30, another need for the Bills. These Texas A&M edge rushers were insane last year. They go with Shamar Stewart. I really like this pick for them. Obviously, they released Von Miller. They need somebody to replace him. I think Shamar Stewart could be the answer here. At 31, again, Kansas City Chiefs, what do you really pick? They're really good everywhere. I picked Josh Connolly for them. Again, I think they can shore up this offensive line. I think they definitely do need a tackle. We know that based on the penalties they have gotten in that position. Josh Connolly was great at Oregon, one of the best offensive lines there that he led. I think he's a good pick for the Chiefs. And at 32, a team that needs absolutely nobody, we have Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame at cornerback helping out the Eagles in the secondary. That wraps up this mock draft for the first round. We'll come back, see how many we got right. And again, we're going to review the first rounds. We're probably going to review all rounds for you guys. NFL draft in 2 days. Super excited. Sloppy